The Middle East. An aid was airdropped over northern Gaza earlier today, as close to 200 Palestinians have reportedly died of starvation in Gaza since the war began. Nearly half of them have been children, that according to Gaza's health ministry. Meanwhile, Egyptian government has stated that it continues efforts to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza amid ongoing shortages caused by several different blockades. An aid convoy carrying 1.5 million tonnes of food and supplies is en route to the territory, coordinated by the Egyptian government and civil society. However, many trucks have been blocked, reportedly at the Israeli-controlled Kerem Shalom crossing, with only a limited number allowed through. The Rafah crossing between Egypt and Gaza remains open, but only for passenger movement, restricting goods delivery. Well, John, thank you for staying with us. Of course, this is a topic that we discuss on a daily basis. Some figures coming from Gazan officials. We must acknowledge that they aren't validated by any other party, but nearly 100 children dying from starvation. Several world leaders have spoken about the situation in Gaza and are looking towards ways in which aid can get to civilians that aren't associated with Hamas. Do you think Israel is doing enough?
Well, why anyone pays attention to numbers put out by the Hamas propaganda ministry is beyond me. There's no way to independently verify anything that it says. You know, if Hamas were to release the hostages tomorrow, all this would end. Hamas instead chooses to victimize the Palestinian people by holding on to those hostages. Now you have reports that Benjamin Netanyahu plans to occupy all of Gaza due to this in order to get the hostages released.
Yes, and John, let's look at Hamas before we talk about that potential expansion from Israeli military forces. Do you think that enough onus is being put on Hamas in this situation? And what more can be done diplomatically from countries like Egypt, Qatar, and potentially other Arab states?
Well, I think that they should be sanctioning Hamas. I mean, Qatar is the number one supporter of Hamas after Iran. Hamas's other external leaders outside Gaza are there. Israel could be putting more pressure on Hamas to release these hostages. I think the Egyptians could do likewise, but Hamas is stubborn, intransigent, and so forth. One thing that Qatar could do is to extradite the Hamas leaders to the United States to stand trial for the murder of American citizens on October 6th.
And John, let's now look at what you alluded to there in relation to reports suggesting that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to look to occupy Gaza. We know after the breakdown in that initial ceasefire, Israel have stepped up their military action within the Gaza Strip, but it hasn't necessarily led to any more of the hostages being released. A two-part question. Is this putting the lives of hostages at risk if Hamas feel like they are going to be defeated? And also, what is this going to do potentially to Israel standing on the global stage with so much condemnation about the situation in Gaza already at play?
Well, let's put it this way. The fate of the hostages is in Hamas's hands regardless. The most ridiculous thing is holding it against Israel for defending itself and engaging in the same sorts of counter-terrorist activities that the Iraqis engaged in Mosul, that the United States engaged in Fallujah in 2004, that the coalition engaged in against Raqqa. So I think that the international community needs to be quiet, step aside, and to let the Israelis do what they can to rescue these hostages. And if they're killed, it's on Hamas, it's not on Israel.
John, thank you ever so much for your time on both of those topics. Of course, discussion around the situation in Gaza, but also the next steps in a hope for peace. We'll bring all of those to you. But we head to Europe.